In the beginning, there was HBO. 3 simple letters. A sacred trifecta. A name synonymous with quality, prestige, dragons, family drama.
No.
And, of course, gratuitous nudity. You knew what you were getting when you heard HBO. You weren't just watching a TV show. You were consuming content, trademark with a capital C. And within an instant, HBO forgot who it was. Like Frodo halfway to Mordor, it got turned around, lost sight of the mission, and started to have its identity unravel. HBO Go, HBO Now, HBO Max, and then, brace yourself, they dropped the HBO altogether and just went with Max. Just Max. As if the word Max has ever meant anything outside of stat progression, energy drinks, and gym supplements. But now, in a twist worthy of a Game of Thrones season finale, and not one of the bad ones, they've circled back and returned to the name that they should have stuck with all along. HBO Max. Why did it take this long? Why put us through this naming circus that felt like it was run by the same committee that decided to rename IHOP to the International House of Burgers? Let's talk about how HBO lost the plot, narratively and literally, and what it says about branding, audience trust, and the absurdity of chasing relevance over recognition.
Okay, so I just want everybody to know I'm changing everything that says Max to HBO Max.
Once upon a time, HBO meant something. It was the home of The Sopranos, The Wire, Game of Thrones. Before that dragon crash-landed into a flaming mess of a final season, it meant quality television, home box office, prestige, water cooler moments, appointment viewing. And in an age when everyone else was still trying to figure out what streaming even was, HBO was like,
"We already changed television. You're welcome."
But then the competition grew. Netflix started producing originals, Hulu was on the rise, Amazon was doing whatever Amazon was doing. And suddenly, HBO felt the need to adapt, or rather,
Rebrand.
So in came the most brilliant branding play of the century, HBO Go. This was the streaming service for people who already had HBO. You needed a cable subscription to use it. And HBO Now. This was for cord cutters who wanted HBO without cable. Same content, different name. And while consumers were out here trying to remember whether they were going or nowing, execs apparently thought,
You know what would fix this? Let's add Max. That's quite extreme.
enter HBO Max. This one actually made sense. It was HBO. But more, a streaming service that had HBO's premium shows plus a vault of other Warner Bros. Content, Friends, DC stuff, Studio Ghibli, Looney Tunes. Except, just when people were finally starting to understand what the hell HBO Max was, they dropped the HBO. And what were we left with? Max. Just Max. Like the name of someone you knew in middle school, or your buddy from the gym trying to convince you to buy crypto. The logic, according to execs, was that Max represents a broader content library.
It's not just HBO. It's maximum entertainment.
Which is kind of funny because it just sounds like a buzzword picked out of a marketing Mad Libs. Or, you know what? Better yet, I know a good example. It would be like if they made a sequel to Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, and instead of building on that recognizable name tied to Tolkien's universe, the iconic and prolific
Lord of the Rings.
what if we called it Shadow of War? They took the part of the title that was most obviously linked to the Lord of the Rings universe, Mordor, excuse me, Mordor, and tossed it aside like an Nazgul tossing a hobbit. And then everyone scratched their heads and said, wait, is this related to the first game? By the way, it is. Feels like the same kind of energy as dropping HBO and keeping Max. The least distinctive part. Like wandering into a crowded convention yelling, Max! And expecting someone to understand you're talking about a streaming platform. There's a reason people still say,
I'm watching HBO.
Even when they were opening up Max. Just like how a lot of people still say playing Nintendo, even if you're playing any Nintendo system. Once a brand becomes the standard, you don't change it lightly. You polish it. You treasure it like a silmaril. This is where we get to the deeper layer, maybe. The invisible hand behind the curtain. Not the kind you want tickling your creative decisions. Because time and again, brilliant creators build worlds, forge cultural obsessions, and then a higher-up with a spreadsheet wanders in and says,
but what if we made it more generic?
It's a recurring tragedy in entertainment. I'm not the first to tell you about it. Creative gold handed over to business logic, which can't always understand why audiences fell in love in the first place. The trees of Lothlorien get clear-cut to make room for more tentpole synergy. And in the process, the audience drifts. The brand weakens. The Shire loses its charm. So now, in 2025, they've done the one thing they should have done from the start. Quietly walking back into the limelight with the name that should never have left.
HBO Max.
Let's just hope they leave it alone this time, let it age like fine Dornish wine. I'm gonna keep these puns coming. Let it breathe, because prestige TV isn't just about content. It's about trust, clarity, and not treating your audience like they're trying to decode a wizard's riddle every time they want to stream The White Lotus. To this day, I know someone who, when selecting on their TV the HBO Max app, it directs them to open up the Max app and then sends them over there to just open and start. And if we've learned anything from, that's right, you guessed it, The Lord of the Rings, it's that great power must be handled with wisdom. Otherwise, you might just drop the ring into the fires of Mount Marketing and lose everything in the process. I realize that metaphor kind of like makes the ring like a good, it has a mixed metaphor. Whatever. These maybe aren't just branding hiccups. They could be warning signs. Cracks in the foundation of how entertainment is treated in the modern age. When good design choices, the kind rooted in clarity, emotion, and the trust of the audience, get bulldozed by executive reshuffles and short-term metrics, something does get lost. I understand that I'm just talking about the titles of these things, but I guess maybe it's indicative of a larger problem. The soul of the IP can start to fade. A little confusion today becomes a lack of interest tomorrow. It's not that these shows, games, books, music, movies get worse. It's when the platform housing them starts to feel like it's been renamed by a committee trying to win a marketing bake-off. Maybe people stop feeling so connected. The brand becomes background noise. And in a landscape where creativity is supposed to thrive, it's ironic how often the biggest obstacles come from within. Not from competitors or critics, but from the decision makers too focused on quarterly wins to recognize the long game of good storytelling. Stories take time, so do brands. And audiences are smarter than they're often given credit for. They know when something was built with care and when it was Frankenstein together in a boardroom PowerPoint labeled
Rebranding Synergies Phase 4 Q3.
I mean, look at the phenomenal success of the glorious Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Honestly, I'm taking any chance I can right now to talk about this game. A whole new brand releases at $45. Movie in tow? This seems like the making of a fantastically wonderful IP. Where do we go from here? Is the next game called Clair Obscur Expedition 32? Well, probably not.
No, hold on, now I got it. Why don't we drop the Clair Obscur part and, I don't like this expedition. We just call it 33. Sequel's called 33. 2. You know what the third one's called? 33. Origins.
Do we keep Clair Obscur? Do we keep the expedition part? Is that what is most important to the story? It'll be interesting to see where this goes when it comes to follow-up material and what they do with the branding. Honestly, I love this game. If you haven't played it yet, go play Clair Obscur. It is beautiful. The gameplay's good. And the characters, mwah, it's like a chef's kiss. You know, es que faire du ski. Snoop Dogg becomes Snoop Lion for about a year. International House of Pancakes becomes the International House of Burgers. For the most brandable name, Twitter. Oh, I'm gonna send you a tweet. Oh, I just tweeted on Twitter. Decides to go with the letter
X.
Having these singular people just stomp on through and make everyone below them work on an idea that just doesn't work, and damn it, we all know it doesn't work, might not be a good way to do things?
I don't know. I don't own a Fortune 500 company. I'm just an idiot.
So when the next beloved IP gets fumbled or a universally recognized name like HBO gets dropped in favor of something that sounds like a microwave popcorn setting, remember, it's not just about names. It's about what happens when art collides with ambition, and ambition forgets to make room for the artists. And sometimes that's the greatest fantasy of all, that creativity could lead, unburdened by the kind of decisions that turn Middle Earth into middle management. I got you. There was one more.
Thank you for watching. Thanks to Mega64, the corporate idiots who've gotten their jobs through nepotism or favorism that make these stories possible. And especially thank you to viewers like you. Thank you. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications. Check out the Ko-fi and the Patreon and any other links that may be somewhere in the area.